Well, hello everybody. 7 o'clock Friday night. We're back once again. It is the Long Run podcast and live stream. Hopefully you're joining us either on YouTube or Facebook, and you can download us on all your favorite podcaster providers of choice after we've finished. But then that might be quite a while because we have got so much stuff. We have got more running related stuff than you can shake a stick at. And I know because I'm shaking a big stick at it. It is absolutely jam-packed tonight with all sorts of stuff, bit of controversy, bit of good advice, a few tips. Eddie's with us again. Eddie's come along for the ride. He loved it so much last week. He's come again.
Wilco, be fair, we don't know how long he's going to be because it depends how good his internet is. What we want you to know in the comments, if you're listening live, is stick how many times in there you think Ed will freeze tonight. So
North Hertfordshire seems to be akin to sort of like the International Space Station when it comes to communicating.
Yeah, and
he's already been stopping and starting already because we have a little chat before we get going, and he's filled us with dread because we can't hear it. Yeah. So I'm going to try and see if he's there now. Eddie, are you there?
Yes, I'm here now. Look.
There we go.
This is not pre-recorded. It's not a work
FORDY Run's very own Ant Middleton is in the building and available and on Wi-Fi.
He could fake it. He could fake a freeze. So we don't know. But let us know in the comments. And also, what I was going to badly interrupt Wilco to say was, let us know how long this show's going to be. We're taking bets. This could be an all-nighter, people. I am ready and raring to take down some people tonight. I'm ready. I was so placid last week because Wilco told me that the solicitor was waiting on the end of the phone. I was such a good boy. This week, it's every man for himself. So let us know in the comments how long you reckon this is going to be.
He's straining at the leach at the minute. He's straining away
I'm so fired up for this.
He's got so much spleen to vent. Yeah. It promises to be a cracker, but don't worry. It's not just Chris belly aching on for the next 90 minutes. We're not going to do that. We've got loads of other good stuff as well. We have got some important issues that we have been talking about. Mm-hmm. And one of the main things is the revelation from the Brighton Marathon that they're not going to have a bag drop. We've been in touch with the folks at the Brighton Marathon, and they sent us a reply to the reason why they're not doing an on-the-day bag drop. And folks have to drop their stuff off the day before or on the Friday as well. I think it's available. But we've put that on the relevant Facebook group, and we've printed it in full because we didn't. It was quite a big, long email from them. And fair play to them. They didn't just say, "Oh, well, it's environmental concerns," and just throw it off. No. They did go into a lot of detail, and it would take too long for us to read it all through. And then it's better. We felt it's better that if you could read it for yourselves, and then you'll be able to sort of like make your own impressions. And then please bang in the comments what you think and what sort of observations you've got and questions that have arisen from what you've read. So we're going to go into that in a little bit. We've got various other stuff. Chris, before we got that, we could just give people a chance to sort of like digest that news and that response that we got. How's your week been, mate?
Yeah, it's been good. I just also, Wilco, it's worth highlighting. We're talking about the Manchester Marathon and their refusal to allow deferrals. And also, I wanted to touch on it recently. I wanted to touch on it tonight because recently we've been getting a few questions about, and from the emails, and thanks everybody. We've got one email about half marathon PB later because Chelmsford's this weekend, but we want to touch on talking about putting races into your training plans, because where people are sort of working out the rest of their years at the moment, we've got a lot of incoming questions, which is great. Thanks ever so much. We might have to do an email special, by the way, boys, because we've got about 3,000. But we've got a lot of people asking about that kind of stuff. So I want to touch that. We'll probably do that towards the back end of the show. And then at the end of the show, we're going to be drawing out the winners from the competition that we was giving away the places for the Great Manchester Half Marathon and 10K, and also our 3 winners from the February challenge that was done in the 40 Runs Facebook community. If you're not a member of that, make sure you join. So we're going to be doing the giveaways and results at the end of the show, half marathons and races and all that kind of stuff as well. We're going to start off with Brighton in a minute. Hopefully you've read that now because there's a lot of information. Manchester Marathon will come on to as well. And yeah, I'm going to try not to get myself into trouble. We'll see how many times Eddie freezes. And what I want to know really, right, what value is Toby going to add to the show? Apart from the fact that he's still not decorated. What was the word he used? Rustic. Was it rustic?
Rustic, yeah.
Rustic production.
I'm not sure about that. Rusty, perhaps. But
Oh, that's just wrong. That's wrong. For anyone on the pod,
all of you on the podcast who are not privy to see the Toby's just put up a hashtag unpaid bar.
If Cadbury's want to sponsor the show, I'm happy for Cadbury's. If they've got a lot of money, they can sponsor the show. Got no problem with that.
Well, that's the sort
of provide orange chocolate.
We'd like, isn't it?
Yeah, it's somebody dropped off an Easter egg today for the girls. One of them was Cherry's chocolate orange. I nearly binned it. I mean, honestly, it should be out. Let us know. Send in emails to something.com. Should orange chocolate be out?
gmail.com and Fordy, bring it Tuesday. Send it my way, mate. I'll see it off.
No, honestly, orange chocolate should be banned. I'm starting a campaign. You should have tomato in your chicken burger from Nazing, who are not sponsoring. Nazing Fish and Chip Shop aren't sponsoring this week's pod. Next week's pod, by the way, could be sponsored by I think Mark Stone said, is it the Goldsham, Toe? Goldsham, the Indian restaurant. Indian restaurant in Broxton, because we're going there apparently on Wednesday, so they could be sponsoring the pod, see if we can get some cheap onion barges.
Okay.
You're welcome, Wilco. But yeah, we could get Cadbury's to sponsor it, couldn't we? Or Terry's. If tell you what, here's a challenge. I'll send this out. If Terry's Chocolate Orange want to sponsor the pod, not that we're looking for a sponsor, I'll eat it live on the show. Once you've paid. Yeah, how's that? That's fair, isn't it?
Now, if that's not worth a little bit, Terry's digging their hand in their pocket, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got loads of crack on with, so we ought to do it. But before I want to say, longrunshow@gmail.com for all your observations and everything.
Help.
And also click on the link that Toby's put on Facebook, and then we'll be able to see your name, and then we can give you a shout out, because Facebook user, love you though we do. I see Facebook user said, I'll have the chocolate orange, bring it to Hartford. You won't be getting it if it's coming to Hartford, because I'll be at the front of the queue for that.
No, because I'd broken into Toby's and burnt it. I might. That's probably the best thing. I might even burn that. But
right then, I think we should crack on, because we've done nearly 10 minutes waffling about chocolate orange.
Rubbish. Just rubbish.
You know, and who's wasting their time on a Friday night listening to Billy aching on about that?
Sorry. One, Toby, your camera's out of focus. But two, have you spelled interim wrong?
Yes, he has.
Yeah, yes.
Quite possibly.
Anyone on the podcast, Toby spelled, because he mentioned it last week. It took me 55 minutes. He can't spell. I can't talk. To notice his job title that he's given himself. So again, on the podcast, if you're listening, like you can type your name on. So I've got like bag drop. Eddie's got frozen. Wilco's got Wilco, and Toby's wrote interim, but he's not spelt it right. And now again,
interim, as in he's inside a haircut.
Yeah. So slight toe, and also your camera's out of focus again. But anyway, let's. Should we crack on with some running stuff?
Let's crack on. Now, well, I'll just set the scene a little bit. That there was a message that was broken on the group in the middle of the week, Tuesday or Wednesday, that notification came through that the Brighton Marathon would not be offering a on-the-day bag drop for competitors for their Brighton Marathon, which I believe is on April the 9th. So that's not, that's just over a month away. So obviously it is a place where, because 40 runs are very well represented in the southeast of England, there are lots of people that will be affected by this, in that they will be, rather than making a weekend of it, they will be aiming to travel down to Brighton on the day, either in their cars or on the train, and doing the whole event on the day. And there were lots of misgivings and moaning for want of a better word.
Say it, Wilco. Everyone was off about it. The fact of
yes, they were very off about it. So, so we approached as we said last week when we were talking about London, we wanted to give the right to reply. We did that. Chris approached the Brighton Marathon to get a response as to why they've come about this decision. So, Chris, I'll hand it over to you, mate, to talk about.
No, so firstly, right, whatever we say now from this point onwards, you've got to give mad love to Brighton Marathon for coming back and giving, a reply, and also offering their event director to come on the show. We couldn't make it work. We was trying to get, because obviously we record this live, unlike all those sort of, let's call them polished podcasts that are, done by media companies or companies trying to sell stuff. This ain't, as you probably guessed by now. So we couldn't fit him in effectively, which is a shame because it would have been good to have him on. And I left the invitation open. He's always welcome to come back on the show because I really do appreciate the fact that they took the time to come back to our reply. They basically came back and we put it up on the Facebook group, which I think is the right thing to do so you guys can digest that. And we've also put it on our Brighton Facebook group for the Brighton Marathon, which has got about 1,200 runners in there. We put it up there. And they gave a very detailed response. I looked at that response, and the first couple of points that stuck out to me, and this is only my opinion, is that basically it's down to the fact of they don't have access to the Black Rock access, the road. That's all changed. They don't have access to that. And secondly, it's driven by money. Because in there, they quoted prices of £12,000 for lorries. They're talking about working within the budgets available and all that kind of stuff. So it all comes down to the fact that they don't have the road closure things in place, which is fair enough, right? And then they're blaming money. Now, if you know that that's going to take place, usually you probably plan around that and work that around that situation. There's a couple of other things that I really need to pick up on that they didn't mention, which has slightly annoyed me and irritated me. If you go onto their website, it does say one of the reasons why they're not doing it, and they are doing a bag drop, people. They're just not doing an on the race day bag drop. So make that absolutely clear. They reckon, quote unquote, on their website, they've surveyed runners. They've surveyed runners last year. Was it last year? It says on there, and they got positive feedback about not having a bag drop. Is that right, boys? Just so I'm make sure I'm not going off straight. On the website, it says that they surveyed runners about not having a bag drop. You check that, Wilco, but that's on there. Ed, is that right?
Yeah, but we were in a different world last year, weren't we?
It said under the section, why isn't there a baggage service from the start? Yeah. It's talked about Madeira Terrace renovations in the Black Rock, which is a thing.
Yeah,
second point says, by removing the baggage at the start, we are able to considerably reduce dwell time and congestion in Preston Park. I don't know. Yeah, I assume that's where.
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah.
We trialed this system in September 2021, and survey feedback from finishers was extremely positive.
Right. Okay. So I'd like to see that. I'd like to see that because I'm not so sure. I would really like to see it. I think it's interesting. If you're going to put that out on your website, you should probably, because it's not mentioned in the response.
Without sort of picking holes in the response that they made, I would have thought that 0.5 or 6 when they made that would have been, we talked to people and this is what they wanted.
Yeah, I think it's what it is. It comes down to the fact that there's a road closure in place, which they can't do nothing about. They haven't got the money to find a solution. So you know what? You've already paid for it. You're already coming. Don't worry about it. This is the option that we're going to give you. As always, looking for solution-based ideas. My personal opinion, and I think they can do this still, is what they should have is a pop-up bag drop at the train station. Speak to the train operator. Now, because they talk about sustainability, which I think is a very good point in terms of making the race more sustainable. Absolutely 100% behind them on that. I think personally they stick a couple of gazebos up, speak to the station, say, look, we've got all these people coming in. We're asking people to come in via train. Why not stick a pop-up one at the train station? All right, it's still a 20-minute walk, whatever. But most of those people are going to have to come back to the train station. They've got the car park and all that in place there. That would be my solution to it. I don't think that's a very expensive, I would say, because you just got to get some volunteers to man it, right? And all right, you've got to find the volunteers, blah, blah, blah. But I think that's a relatively good way of doing it. If you spoke to the train operator, I'm sure you could come to some agreement, because the amount of money that the train operator is making on the day from people coming to the Brighton Marathon, they're having a good day. So that's probably what I would do. All right, congestion and all that, appreciate that. But that's a good way, I think, of getting around this. I think I don't know whether they, again, it doesn't say here whether they knew or didn't know before they were taking people's money that this was going to happen. They haven't said that.
I think that's key, that people, we're 5 weeks from the off and we didn't.
Yeah.
Has this been we're not privy to whether this is a situation that's been dropped on them, which could have been, and they're making the best of it, and they didn't know this when people, playing devil's advocate, they might not have known.
They might not have known.
I think this year, what will happen though is that what I would look at it, I would not go and do the Brighton Marathon if there wasn't an on-the-day bag drop.
Well, Wilco, we surveyed.
And I have the choice not to do, and I would appreciate having the choice not to do that.
Yeah.
So what I would like to see happen is for all these big events, who must be registered to a particular party or group that gives them a license to do these sort of things, they should have a list of, say, 20 questions that they answer for all these sort of things. So everybody is privy to this when it starts. Can I get a bus back to the nearest city? Can I drop a bag off? Can I wear headphones? Can I say all these questions that people want to know when they're entering a marathon or a big race, so that people can make their own mind up when it comes to registering for events? It might be that because Brighton, obviously, I've not done Brighton, I've not been down to the race, but obviously it starts at one point and it finishes at another, like London does. Whereas when I did the Yorkshire Marathon, it starts and ends in the same place. So if you want a bag drop, do you want to enter something that starts and ends at the big place, and you don't have to worry about that sort of thing?
Yeah,
people have to be able to make informed decisions.
Yeah,
and
I
think openness is the key.
He loves it. But Wilco, what I'm trying to get in, because I love it that you're coming with me on this now, and we're going to change your name to New FORDY, by the way. But we surveyed, we put effectively a survey up in the group, right? And I would say 95% of the people said that a race day bag drop is essential, whether it's half or marathon, right? Not only is it, you've got different temperatures in April and all that sort of stuff, right? But also there's a lot of anxiety around marathons and things like that, right? And you like to have your kit bag with you. You like to know that when you finish, you've got your salt and vinegar crisps or your red ambulance or whatever. So to take away that from people at the last minute is naughty, because there was a lot of feedback on that poll or that post where people said that if there wasn't a bag drop, they don't actually sign up for events. So again, you can't expect, and in fairness to Brighton Marathon, they are not saying there's not a bag drop. Absolutely clear, right? There is one the day before, but like we just said, a lot of people are travelling in on the day, like you would do for the London Marathon or for the York Marathon or the Newport Marathon. It doesn't matter where it is. When you're dealing with these sort of distances, you need that function there. And then to pull that away because of some road closure and they can't get lorries around because they've got to pay 12 grand and this and that, I found you a solution by saying about the station. That took me about maybe 2 minutes to think of. And remember, I'm not the smartest tool in the box. Go ahead.
Better solution. If they take the 500 metres over from last year that their race was, move it 500 metres down the road, then you can get to the Black Rock Road, which on Google Maps ain't got that many roadworks on it. He's gone in. Ed's gone 2-footed. He's now brought up last year. They're not having, bless them. In all seriousness,
in all
seriousness, you remember last year, Brighton is not an affiliated England athletics race, is it? Doesn't, like, do you remember all the controversy?
Yeah, the race distance. Yeah.
So if people don't remember, I'll just tell people just tell people that there was a big hoo-ha with Brighton last year, Brighton Marathon, that it was about 500 metres too long. Yeah. And they were forced to apologise about the measurements and things like that. So I'll just sort of just fill people in while Ed was talking. Sorry.
In their defence, I love Brighton. I've run the marathon down there. I've run the 10K down there twice. I think the challenge they've got is, whereas we didn't have a bag drop at London last year, but because London has like a 4-day expo, doesn't it? So all of us people who are more lucky can go down midweek during work hours, in inverted commas, get it done, forget about it. With Brighton, where, I mean, the first time I've done it, I remember speaking to someone about the amount of money it actually generates for Brighton Tourist Board, because every hotel is packed for like Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. But that means it's very difficult to go down there Friday and then go back and then come back on Sunday morning. That's not what you want to do 48 hours before a marathon when you're about to run 26.2. If you could go down on the Wednesday, but geography doesn't allow that, does it, for a place like Brighton? No. So you have to go down on a little weekend break.
Absolutely right. The cost, a fair play to the travel tourism industry. They've had a shocker with COVID, right? So fair play to them to make their money back. I appreciate Brighton Marathon events, or whatever they're called, need to make some of their money back, right? So that's, I get all that. And they're talking about how much things cost and cost of haulage. And we know all that, right? But like I said, there's an easy solution. Find somewhere that's relatively close to the station or bus station where traffic's going to be coming in. You know how many people, if you are smart, which I think they are, Brighton, they know how many footfall they're getting off of public transport. Stick it in a location, a couple of gazebos, bosh, look, we know we can't do anything about it. Roadworks, which is nobody's fault. Here's a solution. Yes, you've got the option the day before, which I think is a fair option because you've got to collect your number, which, by the way, I still think they should be sending them out in the post. I hate all this. You've got to go down there and get the number the day before. Yeah, talk about sustainability, but, you could potentially be making people to travel in and travel out just for one day. It's nuts. Start posting them out, people. It makes no sense, all this business about. All you're trying to do is get them there early and sell them T-shirts.
Just think, if they move the finish, if you go like about 3/4 of a mile down the coast, you've got the marina there, which has got a bloody massive car park, which you can get in because there's a big supermarket in that car park, isn't there? So they could adjust the course slightly and they would have been able to.
Oh, he's gone! He's gone!
He's gone.
Yes!
He's back. At the end and everything.
Oh, that's the first one. He's
only
gone.
One.
People, if you keep me score, that's 1-4 FORDY, Neil to Eddie.
That's
no, look,
good,
we've said enough. Again, I just want to give some love to Brighton Marathon because they do put on. I know they mucked up last year, right? And we gave them a hard time, the Brighton Ultra Marathon. But in fairness to them, right, they had the commitment to come back to us and respond. They've responded well. They've given good-ish answers. I still think that, like I said, they do need to step up and find a solution for the day because I think that they're taking people for granted the fact that they're all going to come down the day before. I think that's a bit strong and they need to find a solution. But fair play to them for coming on. But please, going forward, Brighton Marathon, send your bibs out to people. Stop all this nonsense about getting people down there and that lot. It's not, you talk about sustainability. You need to change it up. I think.
So, I hope we've
we've tackled that,
covered that. Okay. We're still obviously interested in your observations and everything. Good luck to everybody who's going down to Brighton, and I hope the
we'll support it.
Well,
we'll be there.
You don't need all this hassle, do you? 6 weeks before a marathon, all you want to do is worry about running that distance. So
that's the thing. That is the thing. We'll get on to some questions because I've seen some stuff, coming through. I've seen some questions and things like that, but I just want to touch briefly on Manchester Marathon, if that's okay, lads. Cool. And then we'll come into the questions and the bits about, some of your emails and so using races and stuff. But it's along the same sort of lines in terms of these big races and events. Now, Manchester Marathon, okay, so the deferral, after the 31st of Jan, you can't defer. You can sell your place, but you can't defer, right? The race is at the start of April, 3rd of April, whatever it is, but you can't defer after the 31st of January. I emailed them over a week and a half ago. I've had no response, right? Zero response from them, and I've used the correct channels. I've also gone on their website today to try and speak to somebody from their press, and I got directed to the contact page, and the contact page directed me to their Facebook Messenger, and I've messaged them several times on that. I've had no response. So just to be completely transparent, I've had no response. I'm more than happy for Manchester Marathon, the event organizer, to come back on, and we're happy to give the feedback and put you on this show and whatever. But the issue I have is that after I put that out on our Instagram, I got contacted by a few people about this situation. I don't understand this deferral process. Please educate me, anybody, if they think this is fair or unfair. But if you're training for a marathon and you get injured in March, what you're just meant to hobble around, or you get injured on February the 1st, right? So you're out. Or, as I found out, you get told you've got incurable cancer, which I know somebody's had, and they've not heard. They've tried to reach the event organizer to get the money back, and they've not heard from them. Incurable cancer, and they want, and obviously they can't do the race. Bless them. And, you know what I'm talking about, because I've got your permission to mention this. I wish you all the best in the world. We generally send our love to you, and I offer to help where I can. But what's that all about? Why can't you? I don't understand this with Manchester Marathon. Why you can't defer up until March? I mean, what?
That just seems crazy. It doesn't. You can't say, "Oh yeah, well I'm going to be all right," and I'll get injured on the 28th of February.
January the 1st. Can you plan your injuries? Is what they're saying. And not being funny, but you ain't going to sell your place because everybody's doing the races well into their training by then. So who are you going to sell your place to? The cat? I mean, it's just madness. But the fact is that somebody as distraught as that, incurable cancer, no response, can't get their money back. And again, I think it's bad. I've not had an email, and I was asking the question. I've not had anything from them. Their contact, the way they come about, is diabolical. If they're not having the decency to write back to people, again, we've got to do talking with our feet with these races and events. I just think, and I've got nothing against the organisers. This is not me, having a go at people for the sake of having a go. But when I get told these sort of things, and that's an example there, and they don't come back to you or don't try and help you out in an extreme circumstance like that, I think that's bang out of order. And I really feel sorry, not only obviously for the person,
it's just,
but I feel sorry for them.
It's the old good manners cost nothing, isn't it? I think that people get so much, companies get so much traction and goodwill if they come across that they care about people's situation, they give a bit of personal attention to people. And, you don't want to go into a thing where you get posted to a Facebook Messenger and then there's a sort of like tick the box, and if you don't fit, then we won't.
I just
a human voice and try and get some stuff. So we hope.
You look at the story I told you the other day,
Manchester, to give us, give us some help on this and just reach out and try and help people out.
What's that, Ed? What was you saying, Ed?
Well, I was telling a story on Tuesday, and a very, very obviously Phoenix Running are a much smaller operation, But so Rick, who runs that, all through the last 2 years, when people have had to postpone, he's had to reschedule, and he's tried to fit everyone in. And he sent out a blanket email to every one of his members. I put it on his Facebook groups, and I said,
He's
gone again.
He's got 2-0.
I said, if you think you've missed a race, I'll check, and I'll re-entry to any race. No questions asked, no investigating. He said,
there you go.
And it's a much smaller
3-0.
Yeah, I mean, if the little guy can do it, so can the big man, can't he?
And it's like a bit more of a...
Yeah, you're right, Ed. What you're saying is you're right. I think what they can do is, I get the deferral process can be complicated for them. I know they still got 3 or 4 months, whatever. I don't want to get into all that. But it's simple just to write back to someone and say, you know what, here's a voucher for 20... I know it doesn't help with the lady, but, here's a voucher for 2024, right? You can do it then. But this is our immediate response. After the 31st of Jan, we can't defer you until, the following year's race, but we can give you a voucher for 2024. Or we can offer you 50% of your money back or something like that. Do you know what I mean? I just think, I've lost the money from the Manchester Marathon because I'm an idiot and I forgot to defer before the 31st of January. But in no way did I think that I'd have to tell them by the 31st of January for a race that was happening in April. Absolutely not. I was expecting somewhere around March, right? Because basically I've overbooked myself. Shot, right? But I just think, again, it goes back to that point, isn't it? These companies, bless them, they're not in touch with the runners. They're like media giants and big organisations, and they're not thinking like runners, and they don't understand runners because they're basically not runners, and they don't.
I'll say exactly the same as I said last week when we were talking about the London Marathon. If someone from Manchester Marathon wants to come on and have a chat with us, or give us a statement like the folks at Brighton did, you know, we are open to listen, and we'd like to give as much.
We love Manchester Marathon. Straight out there, we love the event. Think it's awesome, brilliant, love it. Right, that's not in any. You know, we're not even going down there. What we're saying is have a look at your deferral and make sure you go back to that lady, please, and help her, because that's just wrong. Chelmsford half. I've seen some comments about that. We're going to come on to that. We're going to talk about that in the. Let's call it. Should we call it the second half of the show? Was why Wilco now goes and checks with his solicitor.
I'm just ringing now. I've got her on speed dial, mate. I'm just going to sort that out.
Probably best before we start getting all the emails. I tell you what. Shall we? By the way, boys, none of you have noticed that I'm not wearing my Manscaped t-shirt today. Oh, did you, Tom? No. Yeah,
I did. I did. I thought I wouldn't question the boss.
I couldn't find it. I'll be straight up. Big shout out Manscaped. I couldn't find it. So what I've done is I put my Manscaped pants on, but I'm guessing you don't want to see those. So
can we play the video?
Let's play the video.
Yeah, let's play the video. I think that's a good idea. So, yeah, play the video, mate.
One man every hour, every day is diagnosed with testicular cancer. We want to help raise awareness about the ball-busting disease, which is the most common form of cancer among men ages 15 to 35. For this reason, we are happy to promote Manscaped products on the Long Run podcast, as they have teamed up with Testicular Cancer Society to educate and entertain while spreading a very important message about early detection and self-screening to protect yourself against men's health issues and cancer risk. Me and the boys were lucky enough to be sent a Performance Package 4 each, which is everything a man needs. To get 20% off and free shipping, head over to manscaped.com and use promo code FORDY on checkout.
So there you go, folks. Thanks ever so much for the support that you've been giving our Manscaped little campaign to raise awareness for testicular cancer. And as FORDY said on the video, you can get 20% off at Manscaped and free shipping by using the promo code FORDY. And just so it's not just sort of like us going on and just having a little break in the middle of the thing, I just wanted to draw your attention to this lovely email we had from Simon Fearbold this week. Thanks, Simon. Thanks for getting in touch, mate. He just said, thanks very much. And I wanted to give you some praise for the focus with Manscaped and testicular cancer recently. I'm currently in remission after recently recovering from surgery in September to remove a tumour, and I'm now working my way back to full fitness. I found it is still a subject not freely spoken enough about between guys. So any way to get the conversation going is great to see. And thanks very much for making this the best community and one I feel very grateful to be proud of.
Thank you very much, Simon.
Cheers, really, Simon. Thanks, mate.
Really appreciate that. Really appreciate that. It means a lot. And that, as I said, is one of the reasons why we are happy to wear the t-shirts or the pants in this case.
Or the pants, or both.
Yeah. Right. So we said that we would actually, after we've all calmed down and Wilco spoke to his solicitor, that we'd actually talk about something that might actually add some value to some of you. And that is adding races into your training plans. So what we're talking about is maybe you're training for Great North Run. When's a good time to stick a 10K in? How would you attack that 10K? You know, all that, what sort of pace should you run it at? All that kind of stuff. We're going to start off, I think, Wilco, if it's all right with you. I've got an email in about this weekend's Chelmsford half, right?
Far away, mate.
Good. Well, no, before we get to that, because while I was printing that, I realised that the inbox is like getting out of control because admin is in St. Lucia with Roy. So what we need to do, I've printed a few off, and look, this is how now good I am. I'm actually highlighting bits. Don't tell Scarlett, but I've nicked one of her highlighters. She will lose it when she's found that out. So here we go. I've only got two.
Just make this up, folks, you know? It's well organised. Honest.
Right, so first one, and we'll come on to everybody else who sent emails in at some point. Susie, big shout out Susie. Firstly, boys, it looks like we're up on our way to Dundee because Dundee half dram is only 18 quid to enter. She's told us that She loves it where we talk about the cost of races and all that sort of stuff, and loves the podcast. So big shout out to Susie. We're coming up to Dundee. 18 quid.
Mate.
It's
I'm
a
up for it.
steal. Yeah. Compare that to some of the other prices. 75 quid, whatever it was, roll parks. Here we go. Last one. Terry. This is cracker, this. Started listening after Marathon Talk ended. Big love to Marathon Talk, but they're no longer. Yeah, we've taken the crown. Kicking Wiley's down. And thanks. Lads, just amazing. Thank you for all the reviews. Keep the reviews coming on Apple, Spotify. We will be giving out the shirts at the end of March for the best reviews. Thank you to everybody. But you need to get onto those podcast providers and smash the life out of the reviews. Even if you make it up and say that you quite enjoyed it, just put it on.
You don't have to tell the truth. It's not a Jeremy Cole lie detector test.
How are they going to check?
You can just say what you like.
How are they going to check? So stick it on now, and particularly make the fact, you could say that you love Toby's production studio. Right, so anyway, Terry was saying, started to listen after Marathon Talk ended. He's up to January. Where are we? March. He's a couple of behind. He's post-weekly. Yeah. Just to say, it was nice what you said about the poor girl that got murdered when she was out running in Ireland. So big shout out Wilco, because and deadly serious when we spoke about that very sensitive subject. So big love Wilco for there on the way we dealt with that issue and dealt with that. He did though say very easy listening except for the vegan rubbish. So he's nice on one end, and then hammers Alan. And by the way, if you're wondering where Alan is, because I saw some messages about how he's in the home and they've not let him out again this week. So he will be back. I know he's missing it, but he will be back soon. But as I said last week, Messi's been substituted. We've got Ronaldo, who's got dodgy Wi-Fi, but we've got Ronaldo playing. Okay, right. So let's get on to what we actually really want to talk about tonight. So this message or emails from Ben. Ben, I hope it's not Ben who's coming on in a couple of weeks. Quick question about the Chelmsford half. He's looking to run a faster half time. And what is the best strategy when aiming for a PB? Should I figure out the pace I want to hit, or do I start quicker? Or basically, how do you go about your racecraft for achieving a PB on the half marathon distance? So he's got the Chelmsford half marathon. Everybody, big shout out for everybody doing Chelmsford this weekend. Big shout out to doing Cambridge, Warwick, or wherever else is going on this weekend. We'll pick some of them up at the end. But what I would say to you personally, I don't know you as a runner. So as a coach, first thing I would say is that, I need to understand you as a runner, as a human being. But just from my personal experience, when I'm going for a time, I would start the first half of a half marathon and I would look to equal split it at goal pace. So if you're running, should we say sub 2 for argument's sake? Because we know that, because it's 9:09, 5:40-ish, 5:41 per kilometre, right? So I would run the first half of the race, dead aim at those splits. And then I'd get to halfway and look at myself and go, God, this is bleeding hard. Or I'd say, actually, I feel like a bit of a hero. And then I would push. And then I would see what I've got left in the tank. That is how I would do it. So again, that negative split element, I would look to see what I've got in the second half of the race. If it ain't there and you need to back out of it, you've built up a nice cushion at the front end. So the chances are you still might come in under, because you've built up at that equal splitting pace. You come into it quite well. But it is very important to make sure over that first half of the distance, you could do this in the marathon as well, or 10K. But you are pretty much dead aim on equal splits. So then you get to half distance, you check over yourself, how you're feeling, have you fueled, are you hydrated, what's hurting, what's not hurting, and check where you are mentally as well, because your brain can do stupid things to you. And then you start pushing and see what happens. You're going to obviously get that period of time where your brain goes, oh, I don't like this. But if you can get through that and keep kicking on, knowing the fact you've only got half left, I would say that one of my favourite ways of going after a time. Yeah, I think that's probably Ed. Any advice on that? Oh, 4-0. 5. No, it's gone.
It's gone.
No, he's moving.
Yeah.
No, he's there. He's there.
Oh, yeah. I was just seeing if I'm muted or not. No, very similar. I mean, whenever I've run a PB, I always go, I'm not the best person to listen to because I have to be right in my head. and I just go out and run hard. And then, well, I'd say run goal pace. I probably don't get to halfway because I like get overconfident. If I was doing a half marathon, got to 4.5 miles and felt amazing, I'd just try and keep going then. But what I do find when I do that is because you generally do, you've got like 10 or 11 in the tank. And then when you get to that last two, then
is that 6-0?
It becomes a mental thing. But if you've done well up to 11, you can, can't you?
What about you, Speed Goat? Sitting there quietly at the top, eating.
No, I agree. I think well, I haven't started it yet. I've got some orange matchsticks as well.
Oh. Right. Anyway, carry on.
No, I agree. I think you've got to obviously have that goal pace, which is obviously hard but realistic in the first place, and just keep it for that first half, maybe then a little bit longer, just to see how you're at, and then push. Because if you're not careful, say you go off too quick, you're feeling good, and those, when you get to mile 9, 10, it suddenly bites and you haven't really got much left, and that's where you start then on the danger slope down. So yeah, I agree with you.
Can I just throw something else into the equation? What about pacers in races, hanging on the shoulder of someone who's down to do 2 miles or something like that? What do you think?
Me personally, I would avoid them like the plague. They do an incredible job for people that enjoy running with pacers, and they do an amazing job. Big shout out to all the pacers. They do incredible work. And for some people, it really does provide that crutch during the race to have somebody to hang on to. Me personally, I like free air, and I don't really like crowds anyway. And I run much freer and much faster. I'm much more confident away from pacers. If a pacer's near me in a start pen, I'll actually go out of my way to move well away from them. Because, and rightly so, they collect a lot of people. And if you're trying to find a rhythm, especially if you're trying to run to a pace, if you're just cocking about and having a laugh, it doesn't really matter. But if you're trying to run a pace and you've got a strict strategy and a racecraft in which you want to follow, they can get in your way. But again, that's not taking anything away from them because they do an awesome job. So
then I suppose you can use them as a rough guide.
Yeah,
you don't have to sort of like put all your eggs in one basket and follow the bloke with the big flag, But
like something Lindsay just said, Wilco, on thing, you never know when the pace has started, and that it's another thing to be worrying about. I think if you concentrate on what you're doing, and you know where you're at, I think you can control only what you're doing and what pace you're running at. If you rely on somebody else, if you like, for example, if you go with Tobe, his watch is always wrong, you're always going to come unstuck. So it's. You've got so many variables in that. Although the paces are set,
it is nice to be in control of your own destiny, and you've only got yourself to worry about, haven't you? And like you say, you do find particularly. I mean, I'm doing Cambridge this week, and they have a pacer. They'll have 40 or 50 people running around all in the same little, 3 deep across the length of the road, and it's sort of like, oh well, I can't be bothered to hang about with all this. You could stay a minute in front or just keep an eye on the one in front and do that. I mean, it's a guide. You don't want to be, I don't think you want to be like I said, putting your eggs all in one basket.
It's all personal opinion. It's whatever works for you. I've seen people do fantastic jobs of crushing PBs by hanging onto a pacer. And as I say, the pacers, they do an amazing job. That's a hard job to get that right. They do incredible, and fair play to them, love them.
I think the pacers come into their own near the end. If you're still with them near the end and you are struggling, it's just someone to keep an eye on and just keep with. And the other thing is your tech. If you've got a Garmin watch, something like that, some of the more advanced ones do Pro Pace.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. So you can put in.
Yours doesn't, though, does it? Tobe, yours doesn't, does it? Really? Yours.
Mine does. Mine's perfectly on pace.
Can you just expand on what's involved with that and what happens?
So Pro Pace is brilliant. I used it when I did my half marathon PB last year. Which basically you can put in what time you're going for. You can actually put the course in as well if you know it. If you've got a GPX, and then it will even calculate in the hills. And you can put stuff like, I want to shoot up the hills, or I want to take it a bit easier up the hills. So then the downhill, you'll be slightly above your goal pace, and going uphill, you'll be slightly below it. So average it out, and on your watch, it'll tell you how far ahead or behind you are for your
so
goal
you'll
time.
get reminders at a certain. So rather than your pace saying 6:30 kilometers, you'll get your 5 seconds behind or your 20 seconds in front, sort of thing.
Exactly, yeah, and it'll tell you the pace that you're aiming for that mile or that kilometre as well, taking into account if you've got the hill there or you haven't. So that can be a really good way if you want to.
We just had a comment on Facebook. It says it's not music. I'm a regular pacer, but I'd always recommend making note of where you are to the nearest pace at the start as a rolling line. But I always recommend pacing yourself. Only you can know what you're doing. It's a trust you. Yeah, I mean, that's great advice. Great advice. They're there as a gauge, right? So yeah, big shout out, mad love to whoever that is. Thank you for service you provide us runners. That's interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, it is interesting. But I, in terms of taking too much notice of what Toby says about pacing in his watch, you've all seen the 5K video where he ran an extra lap. So I'll leave that there. Sure, we've had some. I want to carry on this subject, but we've had some questions, but we will come to you. Okay, so just in terms of anybody who is going down this route of planning out the rest of your year in terms of our races, right? I would look at races and events that you can use to run certain strategies. So maybe you run a 10K race at, I don't know, goal pace, or you do a half marathon. You got a marathon, and you run that half marathon a few weeks out at your goal pace for 10 miles, and then you back out the last 3 miles, or you speed up, whatever way you want to do it. But you use them in terms of learning your racecraft, learning when to fuel, learning when to go for it. On the flip side, because we're doing it in 2 weeks, is we are, relatively still early in the plan. We're using a 10K race to find out where we are in terms of speed and fitness, what we've achieved over the last 4 or 5 weeks, and to test ourselves. So we're going to go down to Duxford. We're going to tear that up. And Tobe's going to use the portal a few times. And we're going to see how fast we can go around that. And then that will give us a good gauge in where we are for our fitness. So we know whether we're on pace, whether the training is actually starting to work. So that's another way in which to put races into your schedule to do at certain strategic points through the plan of adding in sort of not barometers, but you know what I mean, like sort of levels in which you can check. So like I've said it on the I know that video ain't come out yet, is it, Tobe? But 10K, see where we're at speed. We've got London landmarks. We're going to run that, relatively, a few knots. Because we're lucky enough, to be able to get out some fresh air at the start and see what's around, in terms of pace over the half marathon distance. So we know come April the 3rd, is our training on track to achieve the sort of PBs that we want to achieve in May. So if you can look at a few events, or maybe you've got some events that are leading up to an A race that you've selected as a one that you're going to be gunning for a time, then I would use those as either sort of practicing strategies around pacing, running it at goal pace, or attacking them to see where you are in terms of your pace. And it's also interesting if you use different routes or different races that have sort of inclines, declines. So if you're running a hilly race out in whatever your A race is, actually an undulating course, because they never say they're hilly, say it's undulating. But maybe see what you've got over a relatively hilly 10K, and then maybe your next race you do on the flat to see where you're at. So you get a good gauge on both where you're at. But it's really good. It can be really helpful in your training block to stick those races in and use them as sort of gauges in where you are, but also as learning tools. Does that make sense, boys?
Yeah. Where would you put them though?
Right. So down weeks, a good cutback week. So we're hitting, Tobe's doing 20 miles tomorrow. I'm doing 18 because obviously I'm catching up. We then drop down in terms of mileage. So our week will be relatively mild. We'll still have the consistency, but we'll drop down in terms of overall mileage. So in theory, we should be pretty fresh in our legs to go out and smash out 6 miles. So where we're dropping down, from that 20 mile, 80 mile, going down to the 6 mile is a perfect, and we're in a down week after doing 3 up weeks in terms of mileage. So we're using them in our breaks. We've then also got that half marathon, which is it 8 weeks out, Tobe? Landmarks from Edinburgh?
Beginning, yeah, something like
Yeah,
that.
it's about 8
Right,
weeks.
yeah.
Again, 8 weeks is.
I don't
is
know
a
what
good,
week it is.
Yeah, I know. But 8 weeks is a good time in marathon training because that next sort of 4 weeks after, in that 8 week period is sort of the key area in which you really start doing the conditioning and building that speed. You've done the work of putting the foundations in, right, and getting your miles through your legs. That next stage is the sort of critical stage if you're looking for a time in which you build the speed into your runs and that sort of goal pace work. You increase the mileage on those lactate threshold efforts because that is where you're ultimately building that speed in. And it's in that section within that 8 weeks. So that's why putting a half marathon in there is a good point to do it if you're marathon training. Do you see what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's all about adding them in strategically. And again, a good coach who does a good plan, tailored plan for you, will work that through. Because again, you need to do race practice. Yeah, you need race practice. You need that adrenaline. You need how to control yourself and show some self-control at the start and all that sort of stuff. Making sure you know how to use the bag drop. #write a marathon.
If there is one.
Yeah. But no, you work that through, and that's what a good plan with a good coach will work that through for you, and pick out some good local events to do where 15, 16, 17 quid. I appreciate it's still a lot of money, but to jump onto and then to have a go. And even in a down week, you don't have to, if your money's tight, go along the park run and smash your life out of 5K. And then carry on and use that as a gauge because obviously that's free, but you get all right. It's not 100% accurate, but you get some form of numbers in which you can relate to. So I think
I just wanted to bring Eddie onto something else that you would think about bringing events in. It's also the sort of like the mental drag of training to have something to actually look for, a race to actually look forward to.
Yeah, definitely.
To break everything up. Would you, is that something, a view that you'd subscribe to?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I will always put races in, like you say, maybe 8 weeks before there'll be a race. And then, so this year I've got a race in start of May, a 10K, end of May, a half marathon. I'm using both of those as checkpoints to say, is my pace where I need to be before I go into my marathon block ready for the autumn? I guess the one thing I've done, which you didn't mention, which is loads and loads of people will, like we see loads of people all the time, they'll go and do a big half marathon, like the big half, which falls probably in a 20-mile week for a lot of people doing autumn marathons this year. And they'll go out and they'll run after it. One of the things I did a few years ago, which I found really beneficial, because those of you who run marathons with me know I struggle a bit mentally with a marathon and I'll talk myself out of it at like 17, 18 miles. I've actually gone and run a marathon in my training, but using it as a 20-mile long run, and then the last 6 miles didn't matter. So I could really hit because I had the race day feeling and I was in a race, I could run a real good half marathon from like mile 5 up to like mile 18 and then relax at both ends. And the last 6 miles, I really didn't care what I did. I was messing around most of them, and walked a bit. Didn't matter because I'd got that 20 miles in under race conditions, which really helped. And mentally for me, it meant that I can do that at that pace. I can do it in a race at the pace I want to be at.
Yeah, it's really good feedback. Really, really good feedback. You're on the money as always, Ed. Bang on. Boys, I think all of us, except for Ed, because he's like been frozen most of it, should apologise to all the people who've had the decency to comment and ask questions, because we've not touched on any of them this week.
Yeah, we've ignored everybody this week.
We must apologise to everybody who's tuned in this week and just basically been ignored by Toby and myself and this week. So we apologise. You can always send an email in. And by the way, we want to hear from you on email. Where do you want the long run show live? Do you want it in your local town? Send an email in. It's got to come in to something.com. What is it, Wilco?
longrunShow@gmail.com.
There's massive demand out there, at least one person, who wants to see this live, viewer interaction live. Send it in. We will go to the most popular place, send it in to something.com. Now,
does it have to be in the UK?
No, I'm happy to go anywhere as long as it's not St. Lucia.
Has got
Now,
internet. Decent
yes,
internet.
Eddie.
Yeah,
is
we're going to
internet.
have a bit
used
of
to different
a
remits.
hit list on all the stuff that we're going to need.
We got to do the competition winners because
Yeah.
that's important. But I've been trying to scroll back through all and again, I generally am sorry for everybody who's been commenting tonight. Al's usually, this is where we do miss Al.
Yeah, he's not on these.
He's
Come
on
back,
these.
Al.
So I'm going to go to this one because I think this is a good one. I'm never going to pronounce this right. Belis Sirius or something. Help me out, lads. Question. Hello. I'm a fairly new runner. I was wondering if you could fill me on how you see the differences between long run shoes and daily trainers and give some examples. Now, we're not going to let Wilco talk about this because Wilco does not know anything because he's still stuck in 1987 and wearing Brooks. Okay? He knows nothing about running shoes. Do we know the differences between long run shoes and daily trainers? Well, technically, a daily trainer should be able to do everything for you, including those long runs. So if you can only afford one pair of shoes, you want a good pair of daily trainer that will be basically be able to do everything on there. So you want something that can do a recovery run, easy pace, whatever, some form of speed sessions, some form of medium efforts, and then be able to take you through those longer runs in a comfortable manner with decent outsole and, not give you blisters like some hokers do. I'm going to leave that there. But he says that he's got a pair over there. I would say if you're looking at actual differences, it depends what you want to look for in a long run shoe. You could look for something that's max cushioned that will give you some form of extra softness or, nice comfy feeling. You might look for something in terms of a long run shoe that's a lot more durable that can take those longer miles. Think, something that for a marathon training block, you're going to be putting some longer miles through it. You might look for something that's got to be able to do sort of a bit of sort of goal pace running there. So Tobe, for example, has been using on his long runs the Saucony Endorphin Pro because he's able to mix up his pace in them. He's able to run pretty steady in them. But then when we stick in the goal pace, he's then with the plate and the power run PB, I think it is in Neo Power Run Plus, I can never remember. But he's able to use those shoes to use them. But Tobe, you wouldn't necessarily use them on a shorter run, would you? So I think it depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for like more max cushioned for those, daily sort of those longer runs, or whether you're looking for something that gives you a little bit more durability or something a little bit more speed. But to be honest with you, a good daily trainer, will be able to pretty much do all of that. He said don't mention the glide rides, obviously had a bad experience there, but something like Wilco, you'll have this, like a Glycerin 20. From Brooks, there we go, a bit of love for Brooks, or a Saucony Triumph, something like that, or yeah. No, but something like that can do it all. That's not overly heavy. That's got a bit of cushion there, but a bit of life in it. Nice, breathable up, a decent outsole. That's probably that. I would say personally. Anything to add to that, Tobe, Ed? I won't ask Wilco. No, Ed's frozen. No, he's not frozen. He's just refusing to answer. There's a dog. Tobe, there's a dog in the production suite.
There's a dog in your office.
Tobe, there's a dog.
He's woken up.
Milo!
Could all go wrong in a minute. We might just end up off there in a minute.
Milo,
don't pull the plug. Milo's Toby's dog, who sits usually quietly under the desk when we're doing the podcast.
Is the only living being who's more laid back than Toby.
Look, there he is.
Hello, Milo.
You're right, Milo. Actually, better looking. Who is it? Right, so, okay. Should we announce some winners?
Yeah, competition time.
Right, competition. So, thank you to everybody who's been. Don't forget to put your reviews in on the show, people.
Please. Tell us how lovely we are.
Next week, by the way, great show coming up. We've got a guest on next week, hopefully, and it's going to be awesome. Next 2 weeks, we think we've got lined up. We've got some absolute belters. Again, not paid, not celebrities promoting their books, not celebrities selling their, whatever, gels or whatever. We're not got any of that to on. We're not having it. Olympians selling their books. We've got real people coming on with good stories to stand by.
Proper, interesting folks.
Yeah. Okay.
You going first then?
Right, I'm going to read out the winners for the February challenge. So well done to everybody who, if you're in the 40 Runs Facebook community, if you're not in there, you should be joined. We could make it mandatory, couldn't we? Thanks to everybody who sent in the fact that they completed the challenge, picked the winners randomly from the emails, and first place who's getting a £25 gift card thing for the 40 Round store is Paula Andrews. Second place was Rachel West, who's getting a £15 gift card, and third place was Penny, friend of the show, Penny. She's getting £10 gift card for the 40 Round store. Can you, all of you, email me in your email addresses? Might sound random, but I need you to email me in, I don't know, right?
Yeah, can you send them to longrunshow@gmail.com, and then Chris will pick them up and he will weave his magic and send you your vouchers. You can get all your stuff.
Thank you to everybody who took part in that challenge. If you enjoyed it, let us know. Maybe we'll do something like that again in the summer.
Yeah, might do. And now it's down to me for the prizes for the Manchester half marathon and 10K.
Yeah, don't say marathon.
Great run. We've got some prizes for that. We've got 2 entries. And the lucky winners are X Factor style pause.
Drum roll. Toad, we need drum roll.
The winners are Jackie Ellison Grimshaw and Amy Dodson.
Oh, well done.
Well done, Jackie. Well done, Amy.
And Wilco, tell them. So it's all fair, transparent. How were they picked?
How were they picked?
Yeah.
Well, I got all the numbers. I counted all the comments that were on the thing. Shout out to my man today. Give us 2 numbers between 1 and 71. And he did.
Wilco Senior, friend of the show. Big shout out, Wilco Senior.
Wilco Senior. Mr. Will, very big friend of the show.
Jackie and Amy, can you please email us in at whatever Wilco's about to say?
longrunshow@gmail.com.
We need to give your details to the amazing people at Great Run. Thank you very much for Great Run. And they will get in touch and give you either you've got a half place or a 10K place. It's up to you for that Manchester event I think it's in May, isn't it? Something like that. That's an interesting fact. All the winners were female.
What do you know?
That's interesting, isn't it? I'll have to have a look at our stats in terms of the
the gender makeup of our listeners.
Yeah, and dogs now. How many dogs are listening? Milo's listening. Buddy's listening. We know Buddy's is listening. So, what about Ed? Is he frozen again? 7-0, people. No, he's still there. Yeah. It's just his picture. He's still there. But is the dog listening, Ed? No, he's gone.
I think Ed's listening.
No, I don't think he is. Oh, there you go. 7-1. Right, boys.
That's a lot, isn't it?
That was a lot, wasn't it?
We've done well there because we thought we were looking at about 2.5 hours and we've crammed it all into 63 minutes. So hopefully you got everything.
We've got to give a shout out again to Manscaped, I think. Well worth it.
Yeah, thanks very much for everybody who supported Manscaped and Manscaped supporting us. Great work they're doing with awareness for testicular cancer. We talked about that a bit earlier. So you can go to Manscaped and get 20% off and free shipping using the promo code FORDY on that gift set that Chris's video demonstrated. Oh, he's raising his pen. Something else?
I just remember you're going to get shot because you haven't mentioned the Cambridge half meetup.
Yes, the Cambridge half meetup.
Got you out of jail, bruv.
Yeah, you have. You're a star.
You might be the other way around later.
8:15 at the bag drop.
Oh, is there one there then?
Yes, very much so. Helen's in charge.
Oh, okay. So basically,
she's on the case, but of course, the thing is, Helen's an elite, so she's off at about 9 o'clock, and the rest of us are wandering around to the start at about 10:30. So we might be wading through the mud a bit out in that park. It got a bit windy last time as well. I was there,
and I'll be honest with you. Mad love to everybody's doing it. I put it straight out there. I weren't a fan. All that hanging about at the start, we was crammed in there like chickens. It was very uncomfortable.
It was about a week before the first lockdown, wasn't it? It was the last.
I loved it because I was there with Helen and all the rest of the guys. But I don't know. It was, and a lot of it was once you got the bit through Cambridge, you sort of went out and ran up the M25. It felt like mucked about there for a bit, came back into the town, which is the best bit, and then you're back. It was just like Is that it kind of thing? Everyone thinks about, and it's a ballot as well, is it? Is it a ballot? Or is it, am I wrong? No, it's Oxford, isn't it? Which one's a ballot?
No,
Is
Oxford's
Cambridge a
ballot.
ballot?
Oxford's ballot.
They should merge.
Everybody rates the Cambridge. I don't know. For me, I really didn't like the start process, how they sort of crammed you all into
I mean, the only shame that I'd say about this weekend is that it's unfortunate that the calendar clashes with Chelmsford, because I'd have thought, you know, they'd attract the same the people from the same sort of area. Going, there's people split who are doing, you know, one or the other, which is a bit of a shame when a lot of people would have done both. But never mind. If you're going to the Cambridge half marathon,
whatever marathon,
hopefully I'll see you there.
Well, wherever you are in the country, whatever you're doing, or in the world, remember, boys, we're Singapore's biggest podcast. Yeah. So remember. Oh, and Mel, if we carry on talking for 2 minutes, 1 minute 15 seconds, Mel's going to win because she said 1:07. Or
okay, I reckon I could do that.
Or do we cut it off now and then she sort of gets really angry with us all?
No, let's
next time we go bush,
we don't want an angry Mel. So I've got a minute to remind you all to please do your reviews on the various podcast providers, Spotify, Apple, Amazon. You'll find us on there. Also, you'll find us on Facebook and YouTube at 7:00 every Friday night. We'll try and talk some running, well, a bit of running and a bit of other stuff like we have tonight. Thanks very much again to the people at Brighton Marathon for dropping us a line and helping us out with your inquiries about that bag drop. Like I said, I'm at the Cambridge Half Marathon this week. Hopefully you're out and about. You're not on the bench and you're able to do some good running. Plenty of rubbish going on in the world at the moment. So get yourself out, clear your mind, get away from social media for a bit, go out for a run and try and look after yourselves. Thanks ever so much for joining us. Cheers for Eddie coming back again.
Good man.
Becoming a regular.
Cheers.
Top man.
Regular.
And I've got 12, 11, 10 seconds to go. So thanks ever so much for joining us again. We will see you next week. So Toby, please run the titles.
Now!